Welcome back, everybody, to yet another episode of Entertainment Evolved. We aren't sure what we're going to call this yet. I'm going to call it either the Megasode or like the Big Damn episode, something like that. But essentially, what's going to happen here is right here from the Superhero Homies podcast, I have Ace.
Again, I'm back. So hopefully you guys weren't sick of me by now because here I am.
I feel like you were just here.
Yeah, well, I'm always here in spirit.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
And sometimes when you're sleeping.
We need a little Funko of you to put on the shelves here.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah. I do feel like you were just here, though. And as a matter of fact, he was just here. As a matter of fact, I had podcasts assembled in this very room not too long ago, just a couple days ago, actually. And we reviewed the finale and really the entire first season of The Last of Us TV show. So I definitely welcome everybody to check that out. How you doing, man? How's it going?
Oh, man, I am doing phenomenal. Yeah.
I've invited you here under some almost kind of vague pretenses.
Those are the best pretenses.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
They have the loosest boundaries.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about just whatever today. Actually, we do have a couple things on the agenda. If you clicked on this episode, you know we're gonna talk about Mandalorian season 3, episode 3, which I was gonna do a standalone episode for because that's what we've done for pretty much all the other ones. However, we just had a couple other things that we wanted to talk about, and I was like, well, while you're here,
why not?
we'll just go ahead and get it done. We are going to talk about Chernobyl, which is like a 2-year-old HBO special now at this point, maybe older than that. But it was tremendous, and at your behest, I recently watched it and could not turn it off.
Yeah.
So
well, neither could they, and that's the issue.
Yeah, that was the problem for sure. So yeah, and then we're going to talk about a litany of other things. But before we get started on that, we just had another episode that we did together just a couple days ago.
Oh, you mean we talked about Shazam?
Yes, Shazam. Yeah, you don't have the button. Fuck you and your button. Definitely check that episode out if you care anything about that movie. And even if you don't, you can hear us shit on it for about 2 hours. Actually, I take that back. We barely talk about Shazam for the first 30 minutes of that episode.
Yeah, we talked about like so many other things in the nerd genre, almost to avoid talking about Shazam, and then we talk about Shazam for a good bit.
And then during the break, we talked about something other than Shazam.
Yeah, exactly. And then we go back to talking about Shazam.
Then we go back to Shazam.
You gotta take breaks sometimes. You can't just go full head into something without taking the required breaks.
Yeah, and as you guys might know, this is how you know we're settled in for a long one. I have a backup drink over here. So and as you may have noticed, there's not an item here. So since this technically should have come out last week, and we had an item for the Last of Us finale, we don't have one here today. But I promise that later on this week, I'm going to review Mandalorian episode 4, and which I'm really looking forward to, and I will have an item down from the shelves. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. It's highly possible that I'm going to be solo for that episode because otherwise I'm not going to find time to do it. So I can talk about anything up here because I can talk about all of this shit.
Right.
So we even got the Evolve Review Championship over there.
Oh, yeah.
I might just have to talk about that.
Hell yeah.
So, because that's a cool-ass story that you'll have to tune in for later. Because I can't spoil it for you here now.
Can't spoil it now.
So, Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3. Let's get right into it. What did you think about this, like, overall thoughts?
Wow. So, I forgot about what you had told me about this episode. You kept it very vague when we last spoke about Episode 3 because I hadn't seen it at the time. And when I sat down to watch it, actually, it was just earlier today. I realized I hadn't seen the episode yet.
Hey, man, you want to come review the episode? Sure.
Yeah.
Let me turn it on right now.
That's exactly how that went. And so I started watching episode 3, and I was like, all right, we're picking right up where we left off. This is great. I'm loving this. So, it's Mandalorian goodness. And then it shifts and it becomes something completely different.
Yeah. Because the episode of Andor, basically.
Okay, yeah. And so that's what you had told me, and I forgot. And a lot of other people have had similar sentiments as well. And, I mean, I haven't seen Andor, but if it's like that, then I need to start watching Andor.
It's actually better than that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tremendous, yeah. I'm telling you, dude, it was amazing. Like
Yeah.
it was. I can't say enough good things about Andor.
Like with episodes like this, I really enjoyed it, and you did hit it right on the head. You said that I would really like an episode like this, and I did. But I can see it making some people impatient because it did take us away from presumably the overarching theme of the show. It kind of dealt with like the micro politics of a situation like this, which is I think is really interesting in the world of Star Wars. It changes the dichotomy of it being good versus evil to what do these systems really look like at their base forms.
Right.
And so I really like to see that, but I can understand if some people were a little impatient with it. But for me, I thought it was tremendous.
I really enjoyed it too. For me, I think with all Star Wars content, for the most part, it's like, yes, our main protagonists here are Mando and Grogu, but it also tells the story of Star Wars, right? Like Mandalorian and pretty much all, like I said, all Star Wars content tells the story of Star Wars. And the thing about Mandalorian that's so interesting is it is the only thing in this time period that's canon and in any sort of like obviously there's novels and stuff and some comics, but for the most part this period of time is completely untouched in canon. And so really the Mandalorian is the only story that we have that is post Return of the Jedi and not part of the sequel trilogy. And the sequel trilogy, as everyone who has watched anything with us on it, we thought it was fucking terrible. And yeah, so I honestly, every single episode of Mandalorian and everything that they've showed us about the galaxy at this point, like, I really just have loved it. Whereas, like, the sequels, I feel like didn't give us anything that we wanted, And that's not to say that everything needs to have an element of fan service to it, but that was not the problem. The problem was it's like when you have a set of expectations, not that I developed myself, but that you as a studio gave me, and then you're just like, fuck them, then that's where the problem is.
Right.
Like, if Mephisto is not in Born Again, I set that up myself just now. Right? Like, that's my disappointment. But if they, like, were to say, like, hey, we're going to make this Iron Man 3 movie about I almost said the Mandalorian, about the Mandarin.
Right.
That would have been a dope-ass movie about the Mandarin, and then you don't do that.
Yeah.
Then,
And that is a really good distinction. And, you talk about Mephisto Gate and, how even with WandaVision, that was something that the fan base had kind of set up for themselves.
Right.
And that is like we collectively as a fan base were like, Mephisto's going to show up any second now. Oh, man, did you see Quicksilver's hair? It was like, they were like devil horns. Let's ignore the fact that his hair is just like that in the comic books. It's got to be Mephisto. And, we took it everywhere. And then when it didn't happen, a lot of people felt really hurt by that. Don't get me wrong, the Raph Boner sequence is nothing to be proud of if you're Marvel.
right. It's terrible.
But then, yeah, like you said, on the flip side, we do get these scenarios where the studios do paint a picture of what we can expect. And essentially, that is what a trailer is.
Yeah.
It is to give you like a loose expectations for what that movie or TV show is going to be. And then if you watch said product and they don't do that, then, yeah, you are right to feel like you've been slighted.
Right. I agree. Like, so, we've talked about this before, like, subverting expectations, when you just say that as a word, it has such a negative connotation to it now because it's a thing that's in storytelling and it's done so fucking terribly by bad writer after bad writer after bad writer. What they don't understand is you got three options, really. You can either use foreshadowing as a narrative tool, which it has been used as for thousands of years, and it still works. And just because, like, you foreshadow something and then it comes true, that doesn't mean that it's predictable. Right? That just means that you laid the groundwork for the shit to make sense.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Now, then you also have the good kind of subverting expectations where you lay all this groundwork or you do certain things and then it turns out that, oh, that wasn't the case at all, but it was this. But then you look at the outcome and you go, "Oh man, that actually does make complete sense." Like The Prestige is a great example for that. You know, greatest movie ever made.
Stranger Things.
Yeah. Well, as you said, that 5 minutes exposition, but
yeah.
but it made complete sense.
It made sense at the end of it. Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh man, that made complete sense. This is nothing like I thought was going to happen."
Right.
And when you can pull that off, that is tremendous. But the problem is when you try to pull that off and you have lazy writing. And you never laid the groundwork for any of that shit to make any sense. And so now you've left people unsatisfied. Like, I think people have to like the result for it to be the good version of subverting expectations.
Right.
If the result is completely unfulfilling, which is subjective, no problem saying that. But, like, obviously, like, the sequel trilogy, most people are in the same boat about that. Even the people that originally were like, oh, no, Last Jedi is great. Even, all this time later, they're like, no, that was fucking trash.
Yeah.
Like, they can't stand by it.
Well, that does kind of beg a bigger question that I had in mind, and it applies to the sequel trilogy for Star Wars. It applies to, like, The Last of Us Part 2. It applies to several different kind of divisive fan bases, and that is, what is considered a success? Because if let's say that 40% of the people who saw the sequel trilogy, 40% say that, no, this ain't it. This is terrible. This is garbage. You guys need to do better. And, the other 60%, they're either indifferent or they like it. From a studio's perspective, they could look at that and say, well, majority of the viewership seem to really like this. And we have the technically minority group that don't. So would that, in your eyes, if you're a studio executive, would you view that as a success or would you view that as failure?
See, I need to know, I need the details on that second group, right? Because you said they like it or they are indifferent. I need to know what the percentage of indifferent is.
Yeah, right.
Because if it's like 40% are indifferent, 40% hate it, and 20% like it, then that's a failure.
Yeah.
Right? Because with these fandoms, you don't want people to leave indifferent.
Right.
You want them to leave in love with it. If they didn't show up in love with it, you want them to leave in love with it. You want them to be wanting more. You want them in line to buy the tickets for the next movie. So yeah, I think indifferent to me is a failure.
Yeah.
But that may be from, years of like being in the wrestling business, but I don't think it's any different.
That's true, yeah. Oh, but that's probably the worst case of indifference, because you get the live reaction right then and there.
Right.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, this ain't no cinema score. It's right there. Yeah. Entertainment's entertainment, folks. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of like going back to this episode. It's like they're telling us the story of Star Wars. I didn't mind that we veered away from Mando and Grogu for a bit because that's happened, like...
You're right.
Like, I mean, they didn't have to put Bo-Katan in the story. They didn't have to put Luke in the story. I mean, all this stuff that they're telling us is a continuation of the main narrative of Star Wars, and most of it is a bunch of like plot threads that we never understood or weren't given context for or weren't explored, and things we wanted to see explored. Like, we really know nothing just going from watching Return of the Jedi to watching The Force Awakens. You know nothing about the New Republic,
right? At
all, And as this episode showed, they were a bunch of morons. Because I get it. Like, Mon Mothma was a senator in the Galactic Republic.
Okay.
So we actually see her a good bit in Andor. You see her in Clone Wars. So, she was part of the Republic before the Republic had a military, before the clone armies.
Gotcha.
So, she was put in charge of the New Republic when it was created. And she's looking at it as like well, we don't want people thinking that we're the empire, right? New boss, same as the old boss.
Right.
Basically, she's like, well, we're going to be a peace organization. So we're going to dismantle our fleet. We're going to dismantle all these Imperial ships, whatever. And I'm like, y'all dismantled the Rebel fleet. I mean, it wasn't that crazy to begin with. Y'all could have at least kept that shit sitting somewhere just in case. I get the concept of like, yeah, they wanted to, go with this pacifist route, but here's the thing: is like the Galactic Republic failed also. It's not like okay, we're just going to disarm ourselves and pretend that nobody's going to come along and do anything, because obviously, like, the First Order rose up and fucked them up without them even getting a first shot in.
Right.
You know, as we find out later. So this episode kind of gave us the seeds of that. Like, you know, hey, this is where the New Republic started to go wrong.
Yeah. There were a couple of things about this that really stood out to me as being kind of poignant. And one of those is in entertainment, you know, specifically, rarely do you that's right, change the name to entertainment specifically.
So, yeah.
Entertainment specifically, you rarely see the other side of a revolution. You know, like you see the tyrant dictatorship or whatever, the evil regime that needs to be overthrown because they're just making life a living hell for like the rest of society. You know, and then you see a group of rebels or refugee groups or whatever who come together and they overthrow this evil regime, and you rarely see what that looks like after the fact.
Right.
And so I always think it's cool when you get to see, like, okay, it's not always going to be hunky-dory. You know, it's not always going to be, yeah, now everything is perfect and everyone is living, you know, these amazing lives, and this regime is completely good. There's nothing wrong with them at all. And the other thing it had me thinking about was, man, I couldn't shake the feeling of, like, the post-Nazi era. Right. You know, how you had a lot of brilliant Nazi minds and scientists or whatever who went to different parts of the world. A lot of them came here to the States. And whether it be with the NASA program or other programs, we kind of utilize them. And it's like, well, there's a question of morality there. And then there's also a question of how much can we trust these people. And then there's a question of what are we going to do with, you know, these same type of research or technology that they had under the other regime.
I think this amnesty program was definitely meant to mirror that one-to-one, you know. Except, you know, the Nazi one was done, you know, really under the radar. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really known publicly about until later, whereas, like, this seems to be kind of they're using it as, like, a poster child, right? Like, hey, we're going to be inclusive to everybody. And, like, I get it. Like, there's a lot of similarities, right? Like, there was probably a lot of people in the Empire who either didn't have a choice to be there or they believed in Palpatine's propaganda and everything, you know, because that never went wrong for anyone. You know, they were bringing peace and prosperity to their new empire.
Whether you like it or not, we're going to bring you peace, damn it.
Yeah, we will have peace, even if it kills you. Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of where we ended up with this. Like, I thought that was a good line for them to draw. And as you said, like, you never really see the other side of that revolution. You just see them kind of overthrow them. Right. And this is kind of one of the themes in Andor here. Just a minor spoiler. It's like, you know, you look at it, it's like, okay, well, the Empire was in charge for like 20 years before you guys started doing this. Why did it take all this time for you to get? And it's like the rebellion was never even going to come together because you had all these little factions. And everybody's an idealist, you know. Like Saw Gerrera is fucking a super extremist, as we saw in Rogue One, right? Like, he's this like super extremist rebel leader, and he's just like, oh well, everyone else is lost but me. Right. I'm not gonna team up with them. Like, they don't believe this and this and this, you know. And it was kind of like that, where that's why the rebellion never took off before it did, is because you had all these different factions. And everybody's got this purity test where it's like, oh, you have to believe this, this, and this. You got to believe this, this, and this. Oh, those guys are the new separatists, and these guys are the new republic, and you know, it's the South Park episode where, you know, in the future everybody's an atheist.
Oh yeah,
they kill each other over what to call the atheist league or whatever. Yeah, it's the same concept.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's kind of a twisted. Mirror image of the thing that you thought that you were so opposed against. Right. Know?
Yeah. We will always find a way to like divide ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So, and that's one of the kind of core themes of Andor too, is like showing you kind of like why it never coalesced before then.
So let me ask you this also, and depending on what this answer is, I plan on watching Andor anyway, but this may either speed up or slow down the advancement of my viewing. Technically, I guess there's two questions. One, has Joe seen it? And two, did he like it?
I don't think Joe has watched it. So I'm gonna tell you this. This is I hate this. This is gonna keep most people away from Andor. And Lauren and I talked about this a little bit when we discussed it on air. The first 2 episodes are slow. Mm-hmm. It is very slow burn. It's nothing like I mean, there's a couple little interesting things, but a lot of it is like introducing these characters, and nobody's particularly amazing. You know, like it really, the first 2 episodes could have been shortened to like 1 45-minute episode. Get you into the shit.
Yeah.
The 3rd episode, though, is one of the best pieces of Star Wars there is. And then it just kind of, once that 3rd episode happens, when the thing kicks everything off, it's from there, like the dominoes just fall. And it ebbs and flows, right? Like it's a little roller coaster. But you got that little hill at the beginning, you know, where it's tick, 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 and you gotta get through that. Yeah. And that's the barrier for entry. Also, there's the fact of, like in Rogue One, Cassian Andor was the most boring fucking character. And all those characters were terrible for the most part, to me. I didn't like any of the...
Yeah, I didn't find any of them particularly interesting, to be honest.
The most interesting characters in that, to me, I liked K2SO.
Oh, I can see, yeah.
Because he was cool.
Right.
And then I liked the Imperial guy, Krennic.
Which one was
the
he?
guy with all the white? That dude was made to play an Imperial officer.
Right.
Like he was just the Imperial officer.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just wanted to know what the fuck Vader was doing.
Yeah.
You know? So it was like, okay, that's cool, but you just showed me Darth Vader's fucking castle on Mustafar, because of course that's where it is. And then you're going to veer over to these fucking nobodies that are about to die anyway. So I kind of cheered when they melted them all at the end. So,
well, these things happen.
Yeah, and they gave us Saw Gerrera, and then he got blowed the fuck up. And
right.
I was like, oh, man, bring back Forrest Whitaker, man. I was,
Yeah, he'd, man. Because I know that that character plays a pretty prominent role outside of, Rogue
he's
One.
in Rebels a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saul's a cool character.
And, man, I was like, oh, yeah, here we go. And then he just kind of...
got melted.
Right.
Yeah. Back to the episode here, though. At the beginning, before we go on our Coruscant trip, which was nice to be back in Coruscant, we get this we pick up right where we left off last week, where Bo-Katan is like not 100% sure she even believes that she saw this mythosaur.
Right.
And she's asking Din, did he see it? And he's like, no, I don't think I saw anything. I was like, got sucked underwater. She's like, okay. And then as they're going back to her home, they get attacked by an Imperial squadron, which we saw this fight a little bit in the trailers. And that was one of the things I mentioned on the episode 2 review with Brendan, was pretty much everything except for that scene with the TIE fighters we've already seen from the trailers. So, like, most of the season is really hidden. Mm-hmm. And I think I know why, and I'll get to that in a second. But, we see this squadron of TIE fighters. It's not just TIE fighters. We also got some TIE interceptors. And if you know anything about the Imperial ships, TIE interceptors are not to be fucked upon. Like, they're not like the TIE fighters. They are faster. They're more accurate. Like, they're not who you want to be in a fight with. So they blow her house up. And here's the other thing about both TIE fighters and TIE interceptors. They don't have hyperdrives. So they came from a larger ship. And we know that Moff Gideon is escape custody, whatever. It's kind of a myth at this point. But we know his cruiser, his Star Destroyer, is in the impound on Coruscant. So there's obviously a bigger ship out there.
Right.
And Bo-Katan has one line here that makes me think that this is going where I've said it's going. She says, this is a lot for an Imperial warlord, because there's a whole squadron of these things.
Right.
And I think that we are leading up to the reveal that Moff Gideon is not in charge, but he instead works for Grand Admiral Thrawn.
That would be big.
Because I think that's the reveal that's going to happen. Because that's going to lead right into the Ahsoka show, I think.
I mean, that makes all the sense in the world when you lay it out like that.
Right.
But yeah, that'd be huge.
Because Thrawn got derailed in the end of Rebels. Basically, him and Ezra, which is one of the Jedi character, they're on a ship, and they end up like getting blasted out into hyperspace with no like coordinates, and so there's no telling where they ended up.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is if Thrawn is present at the Battle of Yavin in Episode 4, then there is no Episode 5 or 6. Like the rebels would have just died. Like, like Thrawn is not about to be fucked around. And like he would have absolutely obliterated those ships that were flying towards the Death Star.
Yeah.
Before any of this like 2 meters bullshit happened. Like he's like, no, that's not happening. So yeah, they had to come up with some reason why he was not there because he's like the strategist, right? And so yeah, it would make sense here for him to destroy Bo-Katan's home, kind of force her into hiding, whatever the intent is here. Like obviously, neither Moff Gideon nor Thrawn would want Mandalore to be reestablished. Because that's the whole reason that the Empire destroyed it in the first place. Is it's a major like center of power. The Mandalorian people are not to be fucked with. They fought the Jedi a bunch of times,
right.
And they won some of those fights. Like,
yeah, that says a lot.
Yeah.
I also have to give credit where credit is due, and that is they had another pretty damn cool chase sequence.
Yeah,
and those are words that I don't utter a lot.
The man hates chase sequences.
They're terrible.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're awful.
Yeah.
They're boring. They're derivative. Is filler. Is uncreative action filler most of the time. But you can tell they really took their time with this, and they laid it out, and they had a plan, and they wanted to do things that would make sense, and it was easy to follow and understand, and there wasn't any idiocracy going on. There wasn't any equivalent of banana peel slipping. Like, no
plot armor.
No plot armor. No, oh, wow, he moved out of the way of the giant boulder, but I'm going to hit it now. There was none of that.
Yeah.
It was all really cool strategic maneuvering. There was no literally veering to the left.
And they could have done it cheesy as fuck.
Yeah.
Like they could have had him like comically land right in the seat of his starfighter.
I was so afraid that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I was like biting my thumb. Please don't do this to me.
Dave Filoni would never do that to you.
But instead, he did what most of us do whenever we play video games, and that is we try to, if you have a double jump, you try to do the second jump right before you hit the ground so that you
and then you fuck it up.
Yeah, but in the games you fuck it up and die. But here he stuck the landing.
Yeah. Well, he did okay. He fucked up a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But no significant damage.
Yeah. I mean, he's wearing Beskar. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I loved this sequence also, and I gotta say that while we're talking about it, the moment when they go to the covert, when they go to Din's people or whatever, and this is jumping a little ahead, but the moment when Bo-Katan's ship landed, that's one of the best effects I've ever seen anywhere. Because obviously it's a CG ship.
We don't know that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they just have the ship. It's not a model.
Right.
They just built the ship. The ship lands, and not only do you see the dust on the ground like ferrying out like this, but also in perfect time the water, which was real, rippled out. And it was just like that combination of CG with practical.
Right.
And you were just like, a fucking starship just landed right there.
Yeah.
It was an incredible effect.
That was really cool. And man, not to jump around here, but there were moments throughout like the middle of the episode where like some of the CG didn't integrate with me to like a great extent, not to what the show has given me previously.
Right.
It was like, okay, some of these backdrops just aren't that convincing.
Well, the Coruscant stuff, I mean, even in the movies, like, Coruscant is just hard to do practically.
Yeah.
Because a mega city like that doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
So you just kind of have to CG the whole fucking thing.
Mm-hmm. But, no, I like this whole sequence, too, with, with Bo-Katan and then going and, showing the showing the proof. I got the holy waters right here.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool because I feel like in most kind of again derivative or lazy TV show writing, he would drop the container somewhere along the way, and then you have to go and find it, and it'd be this whole thing that it'd be a filler episode for no reason.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool to see him actually be able to do this mission. I mean, there were some snags along the way, but to do this in relatively short fashion,
Right.
Well,
a lot of people thought like the plot for season 3 was going to be this, and then it's like we're on the 3rd episode and we've wrapped it.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
and that's why I really think that the back half here is going to be insane because I don't think any of it's been shown in the trailers, and I do think we're going to see Thrawn or something crazy, or maybe Gideon resurgent and then Thrawn, at the end. Because the Thrawn reveal at the end would lead right into Ahsoka, which is the next thing we're going to get.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for that. Every time I see any kind of update about that show, I'm just losing my shit just a little bit.
Yes.
I do think that we're going to see maybe Hera show up, who is the captain of one of the ships in Rebels, or we may see Sabine. She may show up. She is actually a Mandalorian. She's pretty cool. And we might see her show up and paint Din's armor because she does not fuck around with people wearing Beskar that is not all decorated. She's like one of the people that does all the shit on the armor. So
okay,
yeah, so
yeah. I didn't know how you wanted to cover this one. If you wanted to do the Din and Bo-Katan stuff together, because it does flow together. If you wanted to do their beginning segment and then that kind of 40-minute chunk and then their end segment.
Well, we kind of already talked about most of theirs, so we can just kind of go ahead and cover it here. Like they kind of end with Bo-Katan that she's going to follow the Children of the Watch's like path for a while.
Yeah, it felt like a soft yes,
right?
Yeah, but were you surprised at this?
A little bit. I think that this kind of goes back to like the first episode where it was kind of like this kind of angle they're doing with her needs to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
I think for her, she's like, well, the shit I've been doing ain't it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just hang out with these guys for a while. Maybe they can, show me something I don't know. Because, like, the thing about Bo-Katan is, number one, she helped free Mandalore from Imperial occupation, right? Which is what caused them to bomb the shit out of it. Mm. So she has immense guilt from that. She watched her planet and her people be systematically annihilated because of what she did. What she led them to believe was the best course of action. So, yeah, I mean, when you're in that spot and you've been trying all this time to repent or make up for your failures, and you've been unsuccessful time and time again. She can't get the Darksaber back from Din. She can't beat him, even though she clearly has a much better bond with the saber, because she knows how to use that shit.
Oh yeah, as we saw in episode 2.
Yeah. And the Darksaber is completely unlike any other lightsaber in that regard. Any other lightsaber, you could pick it up and you might cut your arm off if you don't know what you're doing, but you'll be able to wield it. You might not be good, but you'll be able to wield it, and you're probably going to cut yourself, probably to death. But the Darksaber is unique in that it is heavier or lighter depending upon your bond with it. And if you resist that bond, then it weighs a fucking ton. So it's almost like Mjolnir, except with a scale.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously she wants the blade tremendously, and when she picks it up, she can just do all kind of shit with it. But
now, what are the parameters for her to get that back? She has to
kill him for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gideon got it from her because he defeated her, and that's how he ended up with it. And so, even if she were to like steal it or whatever, she didn't win it in combat the first time, and so it won't truly be hers. Like she won't have the right to wield it until she defeats its owner. So that's kind of the lore and the myth behind it. So I really do hope that this ends with her on the throne, and maybe Mandalore restored, but we'll see.
Now that giant ass scary dinosaur, the mythosaur, is that what it
The
is?
mythosaur, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you and Brendan talking about that. I was like, okay, so Den has no recollection of seeing this thing.
Right.
I assume that Grogu probably sensed it, but I mean, who the hell really knows what Grogu was saying right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
And so, as it stands, Bo-Katan, she's the only one who's like, okay, if I saw what I think I saw, then that's some literally and metaphorically big shit down there.
Right.
What do you think the overarching kind of idea is with that? Like, would that come back into play in any significant way, you think?
What I would like to see happen is instead of her attaining the Darksaber, I would like to see her tame that mythosaur. Because that has not been done by anybody except for the Mandalore, the original.
Right.
Which is also the wielder of the Darksaber. So I think taming the mythosaur is a bigger deal than wielding the Darksaber because the mythosaur is the symbol of their people.
Right.
Whereas the Darksaber was something that came later.
Yeah.
And it was made by the Jedi anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this would be an entirely different thing. Yeah. I think it would be more important if she tamed the mythosaur.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool as hell to see.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to get it out of there.
Yeah.
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
that's a good question.
But the thing's obviously ancient, right? I mean,
It's
already
gotta be.
thousands of years old. It has to
Right.
be.
Yeah, because, I mean, they said they thought they were extinct, right? Like,
Right.
there were no more. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, that thing's got to be old as dirt
Right.
and probably angry.
Yeah, probably real pissed. It may be the original one. I mean, it could be the one that he
Oh.
originally tamed.
Yeah, yeah. See, that'd be wild.
That shit
Yeah.
was big as fuck.
Right. It's the Galapagos turtles of mythosaurs.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But you got anything else on Den and Bo's arc here?
Yeah, so what do you think they do now?
That's tough. I think that obviously they're going to try to start looking into who attacked her home, and maybe that leads them somewhere. Maybe they reach back out to some of their other allies. Maybe they reach out to Ahsoka. Who knows? I mean, obviously, I'm always up for that.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm honestly not sure where they would go from here now that they're redeemed.
Do you think she takes her helmet off within the next couple episodes?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of a letdown.
Me too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go with this. I mean, obviously, we want them to eventually break off from it, right, and realize that like it's all a bunch of like mysticism and shit. But yeah, I mean, it's. I think in the next couple episodes would be too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk the Coruscant angle. So do you think? Do you believe Dr. Pershing here? Do you think he's really reformed?
Man, so that's one of the tough questions here. I gotta say, I think that he believes he is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he comes across to me as like he just cares about the research. He doesn't really care, like, who he's doing it for.
Yeah.
As long as he's allowed to do it and like has what he needs to do it, he'll do it for anybody.
Isn't that like a double-edged sword though? Because I mean, I guess like a two-headed coin. Because on the other side of that coin, you have what was her name? Who was helping him until the end?
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, start with the E. Yeah, I forget. But anyways, you have her, and I feel like you said the same thing about her to a degree. Because what I kind of took away from her was that she just wants to be able to climb that ladder. It doesn't really matter what ladder it is.
I think that's true too, but I actually have a different theory on this. I think that she knew they would use that machine on him, and she wanted to wipe his mind. Like, I think she's still working for Gideon, or maybe Thrawn directly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because, like, they would not want the Republic to have that information. They would not want them to have his research.
Right.
So I think that was her end goal.
Yeah, and that's that's probably what it is actually. But yeah.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, as far as like Pershing goes, man, he I think that you are right. He gives this like impassioned speech at the beginning of the Coruscant section where he's talking about his mother was dying, and if they had the cloning or organ cloning technology, then it would have been an easy thing for them to overcome. And I think he's doing that just to kind of tell people, the potential benefits of this and trying to draw it away from the obvious kind of downsides that it was going to be used for. But like you said, man, I think that it does just come down to the fact that this guy, he wants to believe that he's doing this for the betterment of mankind. I think he's doing this because he finds a lot of passion in it and a lot of fulfillment in it, and he doesn't really feel that fulfillment without it.
Right.
And hopefully, the New Republic would do something great with it. But I mean, even if they don't, he would probably try to just absolve himself of any kind of guilt. I did this for the good.
Yeah.
And so I do like that it's layered here, and that you can kind of take away a couple different things from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to agree. Him trying to convince that Mon Calamari that it was a trap was hilarious as fuck to me. Also, I gotta say, man, if I was gonna torture people, I would have a really happy Mon Calamari do it, because that shit was so creepy. He was like, "Oh no, friend, it's fine. We're just gonna cheer you up a little bit."
Yeah.
I was like, "The fuck?"
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I've done it myself. It's great.
Yeah, man, that shit was horrifying.
Yeah, you're gonna see some happy colors and yeah.
Yeah, it was like getting attacked by like a clown.
The way that he looked when Pershing said it's a trap, the way that he looked, it almost felt like that's a slur now for my people.
Well, I mean, Akbar's still alive.
That's true. Yeah, he is. Huh?
He's out there rolling around, probably saying that shit all the time.
Oh shit!
Damn it! All right, man. So, what are you gonna score this one?
So I thought that this, again, top to bottom, great episode. I thought we got some really cool action, which this show, needs. It is still an action show. I thought we got some progress in the story beats, and I thought that the Coruscant section was extremely entertaining. I give it a 9 on the head.
Okay, I was thinking like an 8.7, so we're not far off. We've been on the same page a lot here lately. Mm-hmm. So yeah, good times.
Good times.
Well, that being said, man, I wanna change the gears here a little bit because we got a lot to cover today. I want to talk about Chernobyl, dude. So if you guys haven't seen this yet, and if you just came here for Mandalorian, by all means, we're not gonna go back to it. Yeah. But come back next week or later this week. Actually, it's all getting crossed. Yeah. However, I do want to say that Chernobyl is, of course, a HBO documentary. Well, it's not a documentary. It's a miniseries, retelling,
right?
Whatever they want to call it, docuseries about the Chernobyl reactor explosion. Very famous. It's easily the worst nuclear disaster that's ever happened on planet Earth, and hopefully that remains the case forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is it's Craig-Mazin. Is that his name?
Craig-Mazin
is the director, and the reason this kind of kept coming up is because this is how he got the job being the showrunner on The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And if you watch this show, it is 5 hours of fucking trauma, right? So you're like, oh, well, this is how he got the job. I mean, this makes complete sense. Yeah. They were like, oh, this got to be great for Last of Us.
Yeah.
It's shot beautifully. It's shot really well. You kept encouraging me to watch it. Other people said it was really good. You talked about the homie Joe earlier. I actually encouraged him recently, like, hey, man, you really need to check this out. I think I started watching it after maybe an episode we had done or something. I know it was late. I started watching it at like 11:30 at night.
I think it was at the podcast assembled episode.
It might have been. And I could not turn that shit off. I was up till like 3 a.m. watching it. I watched 2.5 episodes. It's 5 hours long total, 5 1-hour episodes. I watched like 2.5 episodes. I was like, I have to go to bed now.
Right.
And then I watched the other chunks. So I watched this in 2 sittings. Is it Bill Skarsgård that's in it? Is that Bill?
No, that's Pennywise. He's
this is Kellen? No.
Well, there's so many of them.
Yeah. One of the older Skarsgård is in this.
Yeah.
The one that's in Thor.
Yeah, the one. Yeah. Man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but yes.
Yeah, he's also in Andor. Ironically enough. Yeah, he's the best fucking character in Andor.
Oh.
Yeah, he's tremendous. Yeah, really love him. Even though I can't remember his name right now, off the top of my head, and my phone's recording this right now, so I don't have it. But yeah, man, this show, I was thinking, I didn't really know what to expect going into it, but a lot of these things, it's like with a lot of these kind of retellings, they sort of give you like, oh, hey, here's character A, B, and C. We're gonna follow their arc up until the thing happened, and then the thing is gonna happen, and we're gonna resolve it, but. Dude, right off the bat here.
Oh, yeah.
Full spoilers, by the way.
Full spoilers.
For some shit that happened 60 years ago.
Right.
They blow the reactor in the first, minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's basically the opening shot or in the backdrop. One of the lead characters who we end up following, she gets up and it's kind of obvious she's having some morning sickness. And through the backdrop of her window, I think that's because it's been a while since I've seen this. But like through the backdrop of her window, you like see something back there just exploded.
Yeah.
And then you kind of do like a little countdown in your head, like 3, 2, and then like the sound wave hits, and so it was a pretty cool effect. But I think that man, this series, you're right, it is like 5 hours of trauma and tension, and it really shows like the horrific effects of what happened at Chernobyl. That reading about it doesn't really do it justice.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, like what happened to, and it's again like just going back to like the two T's, the trauma and the tension. When one of the firemen picks up a piece of graphite and he's looking at it, wondering what kind of rock is this, or whatever. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. You're like, this dude is dead as fuck.
Yeah.
And I mean, he probably didn't even make it to the hospital. I mean, that dude was gone. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of radiation there. Even if you had on the most protective shit they can give you at the time.
Right.
You're dead in like minutes.
Oh yeah.
So.
And I love the way that they explained it, because I forget exactly what the number was or the terminology, but one of the lead guys over the facility, he kept kind of downplaying it, saying that, oh well, the detectors said that it's only rating at like 3.6. Yeah.
Rodigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the maximum.
That's
that
the
they went to.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was something like 24,000 or some shit.
Right.
Some astronomical amount. And even 3.6, like when they get to the first scientist, they start telling him about it. And he's like, they're like, yeah, they're telling me that's like the equivalent of like a chest X-ray. And he's like, no, that's like 400 chest X-rays.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then that was like not even 1/100th of what those people were being exposed to.
Right.
And like, it's just insane. Like the radioactive zone around this thing, it's like 2,400 kilometers. And to this day, you still can't live there. It's still uninhabitable.
Yeah.
And it will be forever. I mean, like the half-life on that shit is, like most of it's going to be like hundreds of years before it has even like reduced by half.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's like, man, that's terrifying. What we did.
Yeah, it's terrifying that we have. That even that long ago, we had the capability to destroy our planet to that scale.
Right.
And it almost was immensely worse.
Oh, yeah.
It almost killed 50 million people.
Right.
I
mean, and they really did a good job in that show of putting things in, in like a digestible format for idiots like me. Because one of the head scientists, he was like, okay, so the wind is going to carry these particles all over the country, and then it's going to rain, and that's gonna I think he used the words like bullets to describe like the I guess like the atomic structure of the radiation. And he goes, so like you're gonna have basically like 50 million bullets falling, repeatedly over and over and over again. And like the way that he explained it was like, oh well, this is pretty bad. This is awful. You guys should probably get on that. But I think it might have been in like episode 1 or 2. You've seen it more recently than I have, but it was a moment that made me laugh in disgust. It was when one of the younger scientists. I don't think he gets a whole lot of screen time, but he's like the only one in like one of the initial think tanks who was like, no, no, this is actually really serious, and what you're describing right now is pretty awful, and we need to do this. We need to evacuate people. We need to do, and he starts trying to rattle off things that they should do for protections. And then like the old elder statesman of the group or whatever, like the old man bangs his cane and he gets up, and I'm thinking we're gonna get like a fucking Braveheart speech,
It was kind of that.
Yeah.
It was like the Soviet version of that. Trust the state. They have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Obviously, if this reactor was dangerous, then Mother Russia would not have put us here. Blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yeah. He gives the speech like you just described, and he ends up with saying we're gonna keep everybody in and no one out, and I was like, oh no, and then he gets like this huge standing ovation.
Yeah, that one guy was like, the fucking air is glowing.
Right.
Like, we need to get the fuck out of here. And it's crazy how long it took for someone to listen to anybody. It wasn't actually until, I cannot think of the guy's name, that the Skarsgård, which one he plays. They all have really long, intricate, Russian names.
They do, yeah.
I mean, his character was kind of like the kind of middle management guy that they sent to oversee the whole thing. And he has this really poignant, moment later in the movie where, in the series where he's like, when they told me that this wasn't serious, I believed him because they sent me.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have sent me if it was serious. And he's, kind of doubting himself. He gives this speech about how, he was not a man of consequence. Like, he was just stood next to greater men as they did things.
Right.
And one of the scientists, that he works closely with is like, well, I mean, you literally saved the continent here.
Right.
Any scientist could have done what I did, but getting us the resources and everything that we needed to get in order to contain this thing, you were the only person who could have done that.
Right.
And I really loved that arc for his character, because when you're first introduced to him, he's thinks this is some assignment that's just bullshit, right? I'm just being sent to clean up this fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't understand this shit. I don't want to be, this motherfucker's thinking he's going home this weekend.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that the next 3 years of his life is going to be consumed with this, and then that it's going to kill him too.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The body count that this still had. I mean, it could have been insurmountably worse.
Yeah.
But still, the body count that it had was insane.
I love that the official body count from Russia to this day is 23 people.
That's not funny, but it is.
Yeah, and that one guy is still in that reactor. They.
Oh yeah, they
He's entombed there.
Right. I'm pretty sure if you put on a Fallout suit of power armor and you go storming down in there, he's gonna be a ghoul and you're gonna have to kill him.
Yeah. And you're still gonna melt.
You're still gonna melt. Yeah.
Although, I mean, to be fair, out of all the people that this thing killed, he probably got it the best because he probably was incinerated. He probably died pretty fast. Because he was over the reactor when it blew.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. So he probably had, all things considered, from everyone who died from that, he probably had it the best.
Yeah. The delusion from, the reactor operators or whatever. And it's,
oh, yeah.
And, I'm glad they ended up going to the fucking work camps. They really deserved worse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Because, what was it, 10 years?
10 years in the work camp. Which, I mean, a Soviet work camp was probably... damn near a concentration camp.
We saw David Harbour in Stranger Things. That shit is intense.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was probably about like that.
It's probably a Demogorgon there and everything they had to fight.
Yeah. Every night you got to fight this Demogorgon.
But, and there was also a bit of not quite Cronenberg-esque body horror, when you see some of the firemen who were the first ones to respond.
They really got fucked, dude.
Oh my gosh. I mean, they essentially, for those who haven't seen it, think about it like this. If you've seen the first X-Men movie, Senator Kelly, he's laying on the table and he's like the jellyfish man, and they almost look like that. And then remember the part when Senator Kelly, he just dies and his body just melts. That's what happens to these guys, essentially.
Yeah.
They are just slowly melting.
Because the firemen were just told that there was a fire there. And the people who actually ran the reactor are denying that there's even been an explosion. Because they're like, oh, well, a RKMV reactor or whatever doesn't explode or whatever.
Right.
And, like, you completely believe this. If you've ever worked anywhere, like any kind of factory or any kind of like call center or anything of the sort, there are, like, you just know these middle management fucks that are like, we know everything, everything's fine, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
And refuse to believe anything is worth mentioning or out of the norm.
Yeah.
Especially if it would involve them fucking up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's absolutely believable here.
Yeah.
They're like, how do I know the reactor blew up?
Right.
And the guy's like, we just went out there, man. There's fucking graphite on the roof.
Yeah. Well, that's impossible.
Yeah, that's impossible. No. We saw it.
Yeah.
No, you didn't see that.
The guy, he was literally in denial, you know. Like one of the eyewitness basically saying like, hey, no, there's graphite. And it's like, no, you didn't see that. Yes, I did. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Bitch, yes, I did.
Yeah.
I promise you.
And you see, like, the one helicopter that, like, flies through the smoke or whatever.
Yeah.
And just gets instant fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he sent Akimov to, like, go look down into the reactor, that dude fucking died. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the firemen, though, I do really feel like they got it the worst because they had no idea what they were going into.
Oh, no. Yeah, they, like you said, they thought they were dealing with somewhat normal, maybe chemical fire.
Yeah.
And that's it. But no, this was so much worse.
Yeah.
And they were being treated horribly at the first hospital they went to also. They were pouring milk on them. But these weren't, normal burns. These were radiation burns.
Yeah.
But then...
like their clothes were still burning. Then.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, we get, I think, like maybe one, maybe two shots where, like, we actually get to see down into the reactor, and it looks like you're staring right into Satan's asshole.
Yeah. I mean, it is still to this day the most dangerous place on the planet Earth.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
That room that the fireman's clothing is in, right now, if you were to walk in there, it would kill you. I mean,
yeah,
it's still in that room where they threw it. Yeah, it's still there. Right now.
That's so insane.
Because, like, nobody's going to go down there and get it.
Right.
That shit was directly exposed to fucking the graphite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, it cooked those dudes. Like,
right.
Yeah, it'll do that to you right now.
And remember, it's in one of the early episodes, but this is like right after the core had exploded. And they were heading towards the reactor chamber, and one of the guys is just trying to like hold the door.
Hold it off.
Yeah. And then after he's done, he's trying to leave with the guys he came down there with, and he just starts bleeding in random spots of his body.
Because that door had to have been super fucking radioactive.
Yeah.
And he basically like pressed his whole body weight against
it. And, probably the saddest thing about this whole series is that, like, all this radiation and not one person got superpowers.
Yeah, not one.
Not one. You know what it is? You have to be bitten by something that's been radiated. Or maybe if you jump down into, like, the core itself, and then, like, you stop, drop, and roll, then I think you get, like, super duper powers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's bad is, like, the guy who was, like, directly in charge of the reactor, like the supervisor or whatever that really fucked up.
Yeah.
He recovered for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It took, I think, 6 or 7 years for him to actually get sick.
Right.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate that it took that long, that is.
Right. Well, I mean, he had to go work in the work camps.
That's true, yeah.
And then he just got sick as fucking died.
Yeah.
And they actually showed the real guy.
Oh,
at the end, like after the whole series is over,
they
kind of tell you what's happening to everybody. They showed the real dude, and like skin cancer had just eaten his whole leg up. Like, if you fucking deserve it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like that guy almost killed 50 million people.
Right, because he didn't want to accept his own fuck up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Man, and then there was a scene in that show that where they were like, okay, we need to basically sacrifice 3 guys to go down there and like turn off some valves or whatever.
Yeah.
And
that scene was horrifying.
You're right.
Because like they went through all those windy ass passages to get down there, and then the radiation was so crazy their flashlights were going out.
Right.
You're wearing all this shit. You can't see shit anyway, and then your light goes out. You're not gonna find your way out of there.
No.
And if you take any of that shit off, you're gonna die.
Oh yeah.
Fucking horrifying.
Yeah. It's absolutely terrifying. And what they say, they were paid like 400 rubles or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what a ruble was worth then, but it ain't worth a fuck today.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you paying me how much? And then like also, I don't remember. Were they told that they were gonna die from this?
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
so they knew.
Yeah, they were like, we'll put you in everything we can, and they were like, so what you telling them? We're not coming back from this. What's crazy is 2 of those dudes are still alive right now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like the rumor was that they all died or whatever. Like that's like the myth surrounding it is that they all died, but actually one of them died like years and years later, and then the other 2 are still alive.
Wow.
Right now, yeah. Crazy.
Gee, that is wild.
Yeah.
Still, I would have asked for way more than 400 rubles.
Those guys might have superpowers.
They might have.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know.
That's true.
Yeah. They may have superpowers.
Yeah. 400 is not enough. Yeah.
No,
you're
fuck
gonna
that.
have to,
you're going to have to take care of my family like for life.
Exactly. Yeah. I need that shit in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Soviet to Russia, none of that bullshit.
Yeah.
I need my money.
Yeah.
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 Because, like, it was that or 50 million people.
Right.
And that explosion, I mean, if that explosion had gone off, man, our planet would be, like, forever changed by that. I mean, and, you know, a lot of the guy who actually ran, who was in charge of the Soviet Union at the time, years later, he actually said in a book that he believed that the Chernobyl incident was the ultimate downfall of the Soviet Union, like, because it really, like, unraveled, like, they were kind of like China today, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, even if they fucked up, like, the official story was always that the state didn't fuck up, that everything's perfect, everything's great, and then this was, like, where the whole world really saw, like, how ineffective they were and, like, what was really happening.
Right. Man, I'm trying to remember. Do we know if the Chernobyl incident is it worse than what's the one in Japan?
Hiroshima.
Yeah, Hiroshima. Yeah.
Nagasaki.
Oh no, not the atomic bombs, but the reactor. Fukushima, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It is worse as far as like the containment and everything. There was a lot better handled.
Yeah, I think the one that happened in Japan, essentially they let it fall off into the ocean, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Which, I mean, sucks for the ocean, but you know,
it was better than the alternative. Yeah. Than this shit.
Right.
Know?
Yeah. But man, they did just a great job on this show of really explaining what the threat is explaining why this is bad, you know, breaking down nuclear physics, you know, to people like me.
Right.
To a digestible level. And also they walk the line, right? Because with most things that are based on true events, most movies or TV shows either create new characters or they'll do a lot of embellishing, but even more so, they'll put the main focus on the characters and the event would be the backdrop.
Yeah.
You know, I think Pearl Harbor, you know, that movie. But what this TV show did is that the characters just help facilitate the story.
Yeah.
And along the way, they do feel like real people and not just people there to exposit story.
Yeah.
So they walk that fine line really well.
Yeah, the kind of like his like kind of right hand scientist, the woman that like the main woman character that's one of the scientists. Can't think of her name either. Like her character was really cool because they made her up for the show,
right?
Because he basically had a bunch of scientists that were working with him, and they all like are the ones who went out and did all the interviews and like got down to the bare bones and the truth of it. But the KGB like erased so many of them,
Right.
that they made her character to kind of represent all of them because they could not even trace whatever happened to some of them.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well, the show heavily hints that the KGB was going after one of our main protagonists.
Yeah, I mean, he committed suicide.
He kills himself.
And that's like the only reason that the truth even got out.
Right.
You know,
Just those tapes he had. Yeah. And I mean, man, it's a shame that like you fuck up on such a colossal scale, and I mean, it's like you can't really just sweep that under the rug. You can't just point and blame at someone other than yourself. So yeah, it's a tremendous thing that those tapes got out. And that information got out, because now, like, maybe if America ever decides to do something so dumb, they can look at that and be like, well, we know what the risks are,
right?
Yeah. And like, you and I, we live in Augusta, and I'm like, man, SRS is nothing like that. But I'm like, if that shit were to, if there were to be some incidents there, it would not be good.
No. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And the funny thing now is, like, even a lot of the newer, like, bombs that they have don't even put all that radiation out anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the bombs that we would use today to intentionally kill people put out less radiation than that fucking reactor. Yeah, man, like, it's hard to even think, like just how, like, ineffective like their team was. Like, they had the one guy who was a senior engineer. He was like 25.
Oh yeah, he got fucked pretty bad too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, the it's like you can't ignore the fact that, like, the emergency shutdown being faulty and everything. Yes, that was the fault of the Soviet state. But, like, they completely fucking disregarded literally everything else.
Right.
They threw the whole manual out the window because they thought they had a oh shit button. Well, they did, but it was a different kind of oh shit button.
Right.
It was a you're fucked button.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I loved this series, man.
Oh, same.
Thanks for the recommendation on that.
Oh, absolutely. If I ever come across anything else extremely traumatizing, I'll send it your way.
Yeah, man, I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, half the shit on these shelves, so
it's true.
So I want to change gears again.
Yeah.
This was out of nowhere. Have you seen anything about the Wrestlemania card for this year?
Yeah. I've seen a little bit here. This may be like, it's been a while since I've been even kind of mildly interested in like a WrestleMania card.
Same.
Yeah. But this year it's shaping up to be something that I might want to, check out. I still preferred it when WrestleMania was all in one night.
Yeah.
The 2-night thing doesn't do it for me.
Especially, like, we are going to review it, folks. That here on the show, it's going to happen.
Oh yes.
So, but yeah, it makes it hard as fuck to review it.
It does. Yeah. I mean, because that, and also the 1-night event doesn't feel as special.
I like aspects of it, right? Like, I loved that. Like, and this is not good for WWE, but, like, for me, I'm only interested in a handful of these things. So put them all on the same night, and then I don't have to watch the other night.
Right.
Like last year, though, I thought night 1 was tremendous. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then night 2 was fucking terrible,
Yeah, what? Night 1, that was the
Kevin Owens and Stone Cold.
Oh, that's right.
Belair and Banks was the year before.
Gotcha, yeah.
We're getting old, pal.
Oh, shit.
And that match was phenomenal.
It was, yeah.
But, I mean, having Stone Cold return for that match with Kevin Owens on night 1, you were not going to follow that shit.
No.
And then they followed it with Roman just destroying Danielson and Edge.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
No, that was the same year as the Bianca.
Was it?
Yeah.
Fuck, what was last year? Who did Roman face last year?
Yeah, who did he beat last year?
It had to have been because Danielson left right after that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
Unless, never. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
It had to be it. Yeah. I don't know. Too many nights, too many WrestleManias.
No, because the Bianca and Sasha night, the next night was one of the him and Lesnar. It was him and Lesnar number 955.
Really?
Or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, I could have
They wrestled
sworn
like
that.
90 times.
Yeah, way too many.
Yeah.
They caught lightning in a bottle one time, and then they tried to run it back repeatedly.
Right. And I didn't even think that first match was that good, to be completely honest with you.
I thought it was a spectacle because we had never really seen that type of, thing from those two in a WrestleMania main event. So it felt it wasn't like a technical masterpiece, but it felt unique at the time. And then the finish I thought was perfect.
Have you seen, and I don't watch a lot of wrestling these days either, have you seen the Danielson and MJF Iron Man match?
I have heard about it. I've not yet seen it.
I watched it live in the theater.
Yeah.
You should absolutely watch it. Other than the original, it's the best Iron Man match I've ever seen.
Really?
It was tremendous.
That good?
It was tremendous. Like, the finish was perfect. And with these things, especially AEW,
Yeah.
they always like to fuck up the finish.
Yeah.
They always want to do some clusterfuck finish where nobody loses, well, whatever. The whole thing was good. Like, start to finish, I'm like, 1 hour, can MJF really can anybody hang with Bryan Danielson for an hour? MJF, to me, solidified himself as a Hall of Famer, as one of the all-time greats. I mean, that took him from, this is an up-and-coming kid that really has a lot of potential, to he has not realized that potential. He is a star. Like, that was the step for him.
Yeah, for me, MJF is always entertaining. I think that he's what a wrestling company should want.
Right.
So there's a difference between being able to work and knowing how to work. MJF can do both.
Right.
So he knows how to work and he is able to work. And on top of that, his psychology, like both in the ring and on the mic, I think is great. Like this character that he portrays, there's so many old school tendencies to MJF with new school flair.
Right.
And he blends it all together perfectly. Like, he can go out there and, do a bunch of cool flips and corkscrew this and asai that probably, but he knows when to do certain things. And it makes it feel more special.
Right.
And so I had no doubt that he and Daniel were going to tear the house down. But to hear across the board, right, like from everyone that this match was simply incredible, I'm like, I need to watch this.
I mean, I really felt like there was that we we're never going to get another match like that. And that's the thing, like, from our childhood, all these classics, the fucking WrestleMania 21, the Michaels and Angle,
right.
Which I consider still to this day greatest match of all time. Yeah. The Undertaker and Shawn, The Rock and Austin,
right.
like, it's like, all these super memorable matches. Even like CM Punk versus The Rock, I thought was amazing, or Rock and Hogan at 18.
Yeah,
it's like, is wrestling going to continue to be able to give us these really incredible moments? And, like, they're so few and far between now.
Right.
I think of Logan Paul when he faced, was it Rollins? No,
he's going to face Rollins.
He's going to face Rollins, which is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
But he fought somebody, not Roman. It was the guy he fought before Roman.
So, oh, man.
Miz, right? Was it Miz?
They fought in a tag match. Did they ever fight solo?
Yeah, this was a solo match that he had. But it was tremendous.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of them. I thought that Bianca and Sasha,
Was it Ray?
No,
that was also part of the tag match.
Yeah, it wasn't Ray.
Yeah.
I thought his match with Roman was tremendous, though,
too.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought that match, for me to like a Roman Reigns match, that is super fucking rare. I mean, here's the thing about Roman.
Yeah.
He is good, but he is not as good as WWE thinks he is. He's not as good as he thinks he is. He is a manufactured Vince McMahon product. That's it. He is not as good as Cena. He is basically, I think, a second Hulk Hogan. Right? It's all manufactured hype. He's the guy, not because he earned it, but because the company said he's the guy.
I agree with that to a degree.
I do like the bloodline stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love that angle. But, like, when it comes down to, like, I like Roman's character as a heel. Mm-hmm. They spent, like, a decade trying to make him a babyface. Mm-hmm. He's not a likable person. And when he tries to be a face, he doesn't come out and do anything that a babyface does.
Yeah. He
just comes out and calls himself the dog or whatever.
Right.
And he says, I'm the best wrestler ever. He's like LeBron James trying to be, you know? You're just like, no, man, like, the good guy doesn't do that.
Right.
And so, you know, they finally made him a heel, and I think that works. But it's just like, when it comes down to, like, the brass tacks of, like, putting on an incredible main event, I just don't think he delivers night after night. The way that that not only a title holder, but the face of the company should. Yeah. I have my qualms with Cena, but he did the damn thing. I didn't love it, but you can't argue that he didn't put the company on his back.
Yeah. Yeah, Cena, and I guess that is like the one thing I guess that Cena has over Reigns. Is like I'm not a super fan of either one of them in terms of like their in ring work.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I think that for me, it's like it goes back to our early discussion we had about how much does it take to be considered a success, right? So if 40% of the people booed Cena, then this other 60% either loved them or were indifferent.
Right.
You know? And so, like, and that was Cena's entire in-ring career, basically. And so, like, from that perspective, I don't know if I can really say that he shouldered the company. I mean, yeah, he shouldered the company. I mean, but hell, Shawn Michaels shouldered the company when WWE was like its lowest, you know?
Right.
And it's like, what does that really mean? But I don't know, man. I think that with Roman, I think they should have pulled the trigger on the heel turn years prior. And I think they should have let him organically build up to that spot.
Right.
And those are like the two biggest things that they can never really undo.
Right.
With Roman. I like the fact that we don't see him nearly as much. He basically he'll show up for like a promo every once in a while, and he'll show up for the pay-per-views. And I think that's the best way to use him.
I think that's the best way to use most champions.
Yeah.
Like, that are at that level.
Right.
I mean, you look at, like, back in the day, like, they didn't have fucking Andre the Giant, you know, on TV every week defending the title. Mm-hmm. They didn't have Hogan on TV every week defending the title. And, like, that's not to say that you should do, like, some Brock Lesnar shit where your champion's gone for 3 months at a time.
Right.
But it's like, they shouldn't be wrestling every night.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Maybe the U.S. champion or whatever.
Yeah, U.S. Intercontinental. Let those guys. I mean, again, you know, Gunther being the Intercontinental champion. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect.
Right.
Because that guy can work. He's believable, and he's gonna put eyes on the screen
every time.
Yeah.
Speaking of the U.S. title, though, we're gonna get Austin Theory versus
Cena, man.
Yeah. And I think that is gonna be incredible.
Yeah, I think that should be an amazing match. I did see the promo that Cena and Theory had. I don't know how much of that Theory knew was going to come his way.
Cena put the boots to him, man.
He did. He really did. And I wonder how much of that promo was
approved.
Yeah. First of all, how much of it was approved, and how much of it was Cena testing Theory? Like, okay, you can either stick to the company line, or you can take a chance here, kid.
Because you know the writers in the back were like, "Oh, well, we got to write this promo," and they're like, "It's Cena, he's got it."
Yeah.
And Cena was like,
right.
He's like, James Gunn been telling me what I can and can't say, and what I can say is everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I think that match is going to be incredible. That match, you think it'll be the main event for one of the nights?
I mean, it would be night one. Like, obviously, Roman and Cody's going to be.
Right.
So I want to talk about that. I'm not a big Cody person, but I am very excited about him going to WWE and kind of what they're doing with him there. Do you think that we run into a situation, this has been talked about a lot, do we think we run into a Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 30 situation where it's like Cody is like the ordained next in line and the crowd kind of turns on him in favor of Sammy because he's so over.
Okay. So I thought about that, and I think that while that is an issue, a potential issue, Cody for me is like the no-brainer out of the two to go with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You're going face of the company. It's not Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. He doesn't, and I hate to say this, but he doesn't look the part.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the face of a company, that's important. Mm-hmm. I can't be the fucking face of WWE.
Sami Zayn works best as either a sniveling, conniving heel or a come from underneath babyface.
Right.
And you can't be that if you're going to be the face of the company.
Right. Not for long.
Yeah, not for long. Yeah.
Now, could I see a Cody heel turn where like Sami chases him for the belt after? Yes.
Yeah.
Would I tune in for that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just hope that like the fan base doesn't like fuck themselves out of this awesome moment and start booing him before we get there.
I think at this point most fans already know, okay, so it's not going to be Sami versus Roman at Mania, If anything, it's going to be a tag match between the Usos and Kevin Owens and Zayn. Have they confirmed that yet? I feel like they just
it's coming for sure. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that alone is also a great storyline between those four. So I don't really think that Sami even needs that right now. I mean, he's so white hot that, and they've done such a great job with the Uso angle. That I don't really think he needs that kind of push right now. And he had a great moment with Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber. Like just to hear that crowd during that match. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Short of winning it, I don't know how much bigger of a reaction Sami Zayn can get from an audience.
There's a lot of people who are speculating that like this whole thing is just a ploy, and like for Sami to kind of like earn his final stripes, kind of that like he's gonna interfere and fuck over Cody at Mania.
That would ruin the Mania main event.
Yeah, and the whole angle.
Yeah.
I think so.
That would be awful.
Yeah.
Is Vince McMahon still booking? Because that's a Vince McMahon call.
Yep. All day, every day. Doesn't make any sense and doesn't leave you remotely satisfied.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Absolutely not. That's so bad that never even crossed my mind, but it makes perfect sense for the WWE to do something like that.
While we're on it, let me ask you, do you think Austin gets involved? Like, do you think he wrestles a match? Because the man is in damn near better shape than when he was in his fucking prime.
Here's the thing, right? If Austin was going to get involved, I think they would have been promoting that already. Because why wouldn't you?
Because it's in what, like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think for last year. How much promote? Well, we knew that he was going to be there.
Yeah, they did not promote the match at all. They said there was going to be a confrontation.
Right.
And it turned into a match. I'm like, this is the biggest match. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was smart of them to do it that way. Like I thought that like people tuned in because they wanted to see what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, we're going to give them a match. It was the right kind of subverting expectations.
Yeah.
Full circle here.
Right.
But like, yeah, I feel like if he's going to wrestle a match this year, why wouldn't you like just straight up promote a fight? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a match between. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, unless they like unveil it this week, then I think that we probably don't get another match from him. Unless he shows up and like makes a challenge, like, hey, I'm about to go train my ass off for a year. We'll do it at the next Mania because the next one will be 40. Is that right? This is 39.
It's 39. Yeah, it'd be 40. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, if next year, especially if it's in Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy because I remember like 17 very vividly.
Oh my God, me too. That was like, yeah. So I remember I watched 16 with one of my uncles. He was cool enough to let me stay up and just watch it with him. 17, I got in trouble because I ordered that $50 pay-per-view.
17 is one of the best ones ever.
It is though. It was worth it. It was worth it. Yeah. I mean, so I have very fond memories of those old ass WrestleManias.
The first one I watched live was 20 actually.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one.
I was a WCW guy.
Yeah,
but the 20 was 20 was something else. In retrospect, it's not as good, but
that's true.
At the time, that shit was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, man, there's a lot of those that like, you mean like the crew watched together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we watched 21 through probably 27, 28.
Yeah.
It was like a tradition.
Right. What other matches are they having at Mania this year? Oh, I think they just announced a triple threat for the IC title. Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus.
That'll be a get snacks match for me. I love Gunther, but not the other two.
Yeah, the other two, it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I recognize their work, is solid, especially for guys that size.
I've never liked a single Sheamus match, I don't think.
Yeah, he's never, and it's like his work looks good, but it just doesn't resonate.
Right.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre, I think they really like blew it with him. Mm-hmm. I think that he was on a good run and they kind of derailed it and like.
Well, he got fucked by the pandemic as well.
True. I mean, he won the title in front of nobody, and then they kept doing the shit with the sword, and they kept trying to incorporate the sword, and they did the whole thing where like that he like went to hit the rope with it, and like he was supposed to like cut it, and it was time. It was just all this hokey nonsense writing. And he was clearly a Vince guy, and Vince is gone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly a bigger fan of Drew than Sheamus. No offense to Sheamus.
Same, I mean.
Yeah. But yeah, this match, I think it'll be a hoss fight.
Right.
It'll be hard hitting. You can hear a lot of thuds.
Yeah.
But I mean, Gunther walks out still IC champion, and hopefully next year he can get like an actual story in a one-on-one match at Mania.
Yeah. We have, I think Bianca and Asuka is one of the matches. I'm very interested in that.
Same.
I'm not interested in the other women's match at all.
Is it Rhea and Charlotte?
Of course, yeah.
I like Rhea a lot.
I like Rhea a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to go with the wrong way here. I think they're going to have Charlotte go over because they just cannot get off of we're trying to make the female version of Hulk Hogan here. I mean, just with, where she just wins all the time and they're trying to make her the face of the division, blah, blah, blah. I don't love it. I've never, and this is a hot take. Every time I've ever said it, I understand. If her last name wasn't Flair, you wouldn't know who she is. Do I think that she is incredibly athletic? I do. I don't think she's a bad worker by any means. I think that she's very good, but I just don't think that she is charismatic at all. And that is the it factor. That's the ingredients, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you have to have the knowledge. You have to know how to work. You have to understand the business. You have to have a body that will accommodate your knowledge of you doing that. And she absolutely has those two things. But then a lot of people have had those two things, and they've not been anybody.
Right.
And then you have to have that third thing, which is the it factor. It's the charisma. It's the ability to resonate. She doesn't have that. Her last name's Flair. That's what she's got in place of that.
Yeah. And that is fair. That's also the same way I feel about like Kenny Omega, like besides the nepotism factor.
Fucking A. All right. Fine, we can talk about this. Kenny fucking sucks, dude. Like, I don't care how many moves you can do.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a gimmick.
No, he doesn't.
And I'm not saying that you must have one. But, like, he is a fucking anime character / video game character in his head. And he is out there having fucking SmackDown versus Raw matches.
Yeah.
The video game. Like, in his mind. And it makes no fucking sense. And it's not entertaining to me. And if I never watch another second of it, it will be far too much.
Like, whenever I see Kenny or the Bucks, I always walk away with the same feeling, and that is, so why was that thing the finish and not any of the other shit?
Right. Yeah.
I don't really understand their thought processes behind telling a story. And maybe they're not out to tell stories.
They're not.
Yeah.
If they are, then they're doing worse than I even think they're doing. Because I think they're just out there to do fucking moves until they're out of time. Like,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Whatever the last move is at the 20-minute mark, okay, that's going to be the finish.
So they had a triple threat match on the Revolution against the House of Black.
Right.
And it was actually pretty good. But that's just because, like, fucking Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black ain't having none of that shit. And they tried to do a bunch of their bullshit. And the match went too long. And you know, and there wasn't a whole lot of selling. But they did okay. Like, they did better. For the Elite, it was a good match.
Yeah.
Which is like saying, you know, it was a good match for fucking Disco Inferno. But, like, I didn't think it was horrible, but it was just like they did more moves in their 20 minutes than Danielson and fucking MJF did in an hour.
Well, because I imagine that Danielson and MJF, they were out to put on a competition.
Right.
We were trying to win.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the thing too. Yeah. That match,
you
believed that it was a contest.
Right.
The entire time. And that's what set it apart. There was great matches on that card, but there was nothing in the league of that main event.
Yeah.
Because it was a contest for an hour. You believed that Danielson was trying to put MJF away. And it was completely believable that Tony Khan would put the title on Bryan Danielson, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
He's a fucking megastar.
Yeah.
He's probably the best wrestler in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have MJF, who it's just like, he's the underdog here. He's fighting to keep a hold of this title. And Danielson is obviously got the advantage here from not only the experience standpoint, but like, it's an hour. He's got the conditioning for it.
Right.
There's no problem for him to wrestle for an hour. But somehow he's still the face and MJF is still the heel. And the layers of the story there for that to work, incredible. Fucking Kenny Omega couldn't do that. He couldn't do any part of what I just mentioned.
Right.
Because he doesn't fucking understand professional wrestling.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. He just fucking doesn't.
It's like he does something that's akin to professional wrestling.
Right.
But it's not pro wrestling.
Right. Yeah. And I hate saying that because it makes us sound like a bunch of old heads.
It does.
But it's not what he's fucking doing. He's just not, you know, objectively.
And so, like, I think the pushback that we would get from a lot of people would be that there's different flavors of wrestling.
And there is.
Yeah. Of course there is.
But there's different flavors of ice cream, too.
Yeah.
But, like, I can't hand you some fucking tar from the freshly paved road and go, this is ice cream.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Right.
You know. I can't grab a fucking Snickers off the rack and be like, here, have this ice cream.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Snickers ice cream bar.
Yeah, and that's the only way.
Yeah.
And but those are delicious.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with you liking it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, like, you know, it's not ice cream.
And, you know, and that is starting to become a bit of a straw man argument that people are putting up. The different flavors argument. You know, well, there's different flavors of superhero movies. There's different flavors of Star Wars content. There's different flavors of pro wrestling. And while all of that is true, that doesn't mitigate the fact that there are also just bad products.
Yeah. 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 And I think that Kenny Omega is objectively a fucking terrible pro wrestler. I think that Jon Moxley is objectively a fucking terrible pro wrestler.
I think somehow for me, he was never. I never thought he was incredible in WWE, but I feel like he got worse when he went to AEW. Well,
and here's the thing with that is, and we'll dovetail here because we're probably at like 2 hours now. We can do whatever we want. Here's where that comes out from. WWE, it's like, it's almost like our Kevin Feige, Kathleen Kennedy thing to an extent. In WWE, everything is funneled, right? So, like, not now, but, like, once upon a time, everything was funneled through one guy. You have Vince McMahon sitting here.
Yeah.
And in order to go from here to that ring, you have to pass through Vince McMahon's fucking brain. Whatever horrific, cataclysmic fucking mind fuck that is, right? Whatever Christopher Nolan on shrooms, right, is just Vince McMahon on a normal day, right?
Right.
Now it's a little more varied than that. But either way, you still have that filter that you have to pass through to get to the other side. When you go to AEW, that's pretty much gone, right? You're not being given that explicit direction. And some people do better with that because basically what you have is like a Bryan Danielson where, they're this fucking bright light.
Right.
And you take the filter off and you're like, oh, that's amazing. Why would anybody put the filter on there? But then you have other people like Cody Rhodes who can't do well in that environment.
Yeah.
He needs that filter.
Right.
He needs that direction. He needs the blinders put on him. You notice he's not out in WWE talking about his fucking kid ending racism and shit. Like I'm sorry, man, but like having a biracial baby in Atlanta is not a fucking new thing.
Right.
You're not even in the first 1 million people to do that. If that shit was going to end racism, I'm sure it would have set an alarm or something off by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that fucking box has been checked, bro.
Right.
Yeah, but he's not out there talking about all that shit.
Yeah.
So it varies, man. Like some people, like I said, they do better with that filter off. You get more raw them, and that's what we always wanted. Mm-hmm. But like with the Jon Moxley, it's like this dude's a fucking backyard wrestler. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
and that's what he wants to be.
And it's like when he went to GCW,
right?
And he's doing these fucking matches with Nick Gage and shit. And don't get me wrong. Here's another hot take. Mm-hmm. I think that what Nick Gage does is more pro wrestling than what the fuck Kenny Omega does. I think that deathmatch wrestling it's not my thing,
mm-hmm.
but I accept it as a flavor of pro wrestling because it is. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are really into it, whatever. I do think that sometimes it goes way fucking out of hand.
Well, see, I guess I view it like so there's Terry Funk and Mick Foley up here, right?
Right, tremendous.
Yeah, and then somewhere down in here we get your Nick Gages of the world and whatnot.
I think Nick Gage is pretty good at what he does. I just don't love it or really want to be in the building with it. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And here we are at the difference of this is objectively bad and it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like what Kenny Omega is fucking doing is not pro wrestling. What Nick Gage is doing is an aberration of pro wrestling, but it is still pro wrestling. You're still working a crowd. You're still telling a story. You might be doing it with fucking Faces of Death 9 or whatever, but it's still, it has more of the spirit of what pro wrestling is than what the fuck Kenny Omega is doing night after night.
Yeah, and like you said, Kenny is just out there to almost, it seems like he's out there to entertain himself or just to pop the boys.
Right, yeah.
By figuring out, okay, what cool sequence of moves can we do that will get oohs and ahs versus what makes sense at this point in the match for me to do to try to win, even though, like, we know I'm not going to win right here.
I'm pretty sure he's never thought about that at all. No. Pretty sure he's never had that thought once.
It's like, and even on like a smaller scale, when I watch like a wrestling match and I see someone hit like a big move or even something that doesn't be like, super big, but like a nasty clothesline, and I'm like, pin him.
Right.
Yeah. Like, you took his head off, go for the pin. And even with things like that, I see Kenny Omega do a fucking Street Fighter flaming Hurricane Rana into a whatever. And then he immediately goes right into the next sequence of moves, and I'm like, what?
And the guy doesn't have any time to sell it.
Yeah.
So it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many, and here's the thing that's really maddening to me about it, and I promise we'll get off of this, but it's like the guy really is just capable of some incredible athletic feats.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why would you waste it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you and I, back in the day, if I fucking come out of the corner and you spear me out of my fucking shoes, which happened a lot, probably feeling one of those right now, and I just got up and then you hit me with something else right after, we wasted that moment.
Not only did we waste it, but, we kind of killed that,
Yeah.
the whole idea of that move.
Right.
If I see you just pop up from it, then why would the audience think it's going to work on anyone else?
Yeah. It's completely like, I don't know, man. It's just, it's bad storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can say that, like, that's not new wrestling or whatever, but here's the thing, man. No, there's not a single person in new wrestling that has made it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because MJF isn't new wrestling. MJF is a modern take on pro wrestling.
Right.
What he's doing is new wrestling. where you're taking a guy who can do all these things and everything, but he's practicing the art of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And he's doing an amazing job at it. No one has ever made it doing what the fuck Kenny Omega is doing.
Right.
No one.
Yeah.
You can say that he's made it. Oh, he's the EVP of this major company. Because him and fucking Dave, what's his fucking name? From The Observer.
Dave Meltzer.
Meltzer.
Yeah.
Fucking tricked Kenny Omega, or Tony Khan's mark ass,
right,
into making them a fucking EVP.
Yeah.
He's completely propped up by the very small subset of the fan base that think that they're worth a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to it. No one's ever made it with that. He couldn't go to WWE and do that shit.
Oh, no.
I mean, it just wouldn't make it because it wouldn't sell. Like, most people can't process it. And that's not to say, like, oh, people are dumb. They are. That's a different podcast.
Right.
But that's to say, like, you literally can't process. Like, it'd be like, fucking go and try to watch Tenet at 3X, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. You're going to be confused at 1.
Right.
But at 3, you're not going to know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. You're going to be super lost. And that is a good comparison.
I would have said watch it backwards, but it might make more sense.
Yeah, that's probably the proper way to watch Tenet, actually.
Yeah, you'd have a way better grasp on what the fuck's happening.
Right. But that is a great point because, like, even with, like, the different audiences, like, sure, there is, like, a subsect of fans who religiously watch both products, right? WWE, AEW, and New Japan, Impact, MLW, whatever they can get their hands on.
This is for you, Stovall.
Right, yeah. There's Stovalls in the world.
Yeah.
And but I think for most general WWE audience, because they are still the bigger audience, most of them are conditioned to that style of work. And the WWE has a very kind of, well, at this point, it's kind of like a watered down, very simplified type of wrestling event. If they were to watch, a Kenny Omega match or a Young Bucks match, or half the guys over at AEW, they wouldn't be able to really process what's going on in the ring right now.
Yeah,
it'd be a long, hard day for them.
Yeah,
and a quiet match for the guys working.
Well, let's pipe in some crowd noise.
Oh, that's true. WWE loves to do that. Yeah,
yeah. Man, you remember during the pandemic, I called that.
Wow,
shit.
Yeah.
The first time they did it, I said right here on this program, you go back and watch that shit. I might pull it up and make a Facebook reel. I said, they will never stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Never. Now that they realize that this is something they can get away with,
they'll
never stop doing it. And they haven't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they've continued to do so. And there's been rumors that they've done it in years past, Yeah. Well,
I mean, this is the ultimate Vince McMahon play where it's just like, oh, yeah, I decide who's over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. So. He loves doing that. I mean.
Yeah, and now it's like, oh, I can just get rid of the people who are booing my choices.
Right.
I can just do whatever I want.
I can just drown them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Easy.
Well, man, I don't know what the timer looks like, but I feel like we've been here for a minute.
Yeah, we've been here for a little minute.
Yeah, so I think we'll wrap it here. This has been our Ultra Mega episode where we got everything off our chest so that I don't have to record more than one episode this week other than the upcoming Mando review, which is going to happen. So check back with me for that. What do you got coming up on Superhero Homies, man?
So coming up really soon, I have an episode with you, Ashley. We're going to be reviewing All-Star Superman.
That's on Tuesday, right?
That's on Tuesday, yes. The Grant Morrison graphic novel. And then after that, I will be doing Daredevil Born Again, the book review with the homie Joe. I will be also talking about the top 10 graphic novels, the top 10 Marvel stories for new readers. These are going to be stories that you don't need any prior reading to understand and that are also really, really good quality. Those are just a few things coming down the pipeline. And also, if you guys want to, you can check out my Patreon page, superherohomies.com or patreon.com/superherohomies. That's what it is. And there's a lot of really, really cool content there. So be sure to check all that out.
Yeah, and as I understand it, you're going to be going on the Tavern Notice board pretty soon, too.
Yes, I am. I'll be going on the Tavern Notice board to talk about the classic, the iconic, the legendary Dungeons & Dragons movie that came out in, 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a time.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of All-Star Superman, I'm about 60-70% through it.
Gotcha.
Which I admittedly read them like in one sitting. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a quick read.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the rip, man. I was not prepared for how Grant Morrison this was going to be. Some of this shit is so far off the fucking rails.
Yes.
I'm going to need them to tone it way down, but considering James Gunn is directing, James Gunn is the only person I think who could get away with any of this shit.
He's the only person who could look at All-Star Superman and say, I'm going to use this as a basis for my movie.
Yeah. Anybody else, I'd be like, fire them immediately.
Right.
But James Gunn probably could adapt it page for page, and it still works somehow.
Right.
So far, my favorite issue is where Lois gets the powers for the day.
Yeah.
That was really tremendous.
That was, yeah.
I feel like Smallville tried to ape that a bunch of times, and Superman and Lois has tried to do it. Pretty much all the Superman shows have tried to do that shit.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them did it as well as it was done on the pages here.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'll go ahead and say this then, and with anything you read with Grant Morrison, he says one thing, but in saying that one thing, he's also saying something else. And so he's very layered in what he does and very intentional with his weird mechanics. And so there's often like double meanings or deeper theories that he wants you to kind of unveil as you read his work. And I look forward to talking about some of that with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have been enjoying it. So looking forward to adding it to the shelves here.
Oh, yes.
Well, with that being said, man, thank you again for joining me as always for this hodgepodge mashup episode.
This has been awesome, man. I had a blast.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So this has been Entertainment Evolved, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.